So when you think about the history of a country, what's the first thing that pops into your head? It's probably the big stuff, right? The epic battles, the famous leaders, those game-changing revolutionary moments. But what if I told you the real story, the actual DNA of a nation, is written down in a completely different kind of document? Today, we're going to explore that hidden blueprint, the one that truly defines what a country is. I mean, it seems like a simple question, doesn't it? What is a country? But the answer, well, it's way more complex than you might think. Is it just a chunk of land on a map? A group of people who share a language? Or maybe it's the story we all agree to tell ourselves about who we are. We're going to dig into two very different ways to answer that. You know, most of the time, the history we learn is like a grand, sweeping movie. It's basically a highlight reel of all the most dramatic events that shaped a nation's identity. And honestly, there's no better example of this than the story of the United States. I mean, this timeline tells a tale of massive conflict and transformation. You start with the revolution in 1776. Bam, a new nation is born. Then you have the Civil War, this absolutely brutal conflict that almost tore the country in two, but ended up redefining it. Fast forward to World War II, which rockets the US onto the world stage as a superpower. Then the Civil Rights Movement, a fight for the very soul of the nation. And you cap it all off with the end of the Cold War, leaving America standing as the world's only superpower. It's a total blockbuster epic told in 5 acts. And that right there is the crucial question. Is that epic story the whole story, or is there something else going on? Something maybe a little less dramatic, but way more fundamental, that actually holds a country together and defines what it is deep down? Well, that brings us to our second big idea, the foundational blueprint. You can think of it like a country's operating system, or maybe its source code. And to really get our heads around just how powerful this blueprint can be, we're going to take a look at the fascinating and pretty turbulent history of Romania. Now, really think about this definition of a constitution. It's the constant benchmark. It's the ultimate rulebook. It doesn't just describe how a government works. It literally creates it. It sets all the rules of the game for everything else that happens. Just look at what happened in Romania in the 20th century. By changing one single document, the Constitution, the entire nature of the state was turned upside down. The 1923 Constitution, it set up a monarchy. Then, after World War II, the 1948 Constitution didn't just tweak the government, it created an entirely new communist state. And then, after the revolution in '89, the 1991 Constitution established the modern democratic republic we see today. 3 blueprints, 3 completely, and I mean completely different Romanias. But here's the thing, the blueprint does more than just define the government. It also defines the nation itself by answering one absolutely critical question. Who gets to be a citizen? Who's in the club and who's out? And the answer to that question, who belongs, can change a lot. Romania's 1866 constitution was crystal clear. Only the Christians can acquire citizenship. Then you jump to the communist era, and the 1952 Constitution demanded full loyalty to the Communist Party. The blueprint itself was literally drawing the borders of who was considered part of the nation. So this incredible power to just rewrite the rules from the ground up led to a century of unbelievable transformation for Romania. It's the kind of journey that takes other nations centuries to go through, all compressed into just a few decades. I mean, think about this wild ride. It starts as a constitutional monarchy. Then, after World War II, a communist state is forced on the people. Then, in 1989, a violent revolution throws that entire system out. And finally, a brand new democratic blueprint gets written, creating the modern republic. Each of those steps wasn't just a change in who was in charge. It was a fundamental rewrite of the nation's entire source code. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what in the world does Romania's story have to do with the United States? Well, this is where it all comes together. We can now look back at America's epic story, but through this totally new lens of the foundational blueprint. And this, right here, is the core idea of our whole explainer. The epic story and the foundational blueprint aren't two separate things. In fact, a lot of the time, the epic story is the story of people fighting over what the blueprint should say. The battles, the movements, the revolutions, they're all just massive arguments about the rules of the nation itself. So let's re-examine those epic American moments. The writing of the Constitution in 1787, that was the creation of the original American blueprint. And the Civil War? That was a 4-year-long, incredibly bloody war fought over 2 fundamentally different readings of that blueprint, especially when it came to slavery. And what happened right after the war? The 14th Amendment was passed, a massive software update that completely redefined citizenship and equality. And the 19th Amendment? Another major rewrite, this time expanding the definition of the people to finally include women. See, the epic moments are the blueprint moments. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? I think it's that defining a nation, whether it's through these epic struggles or through quiet constitutional debates, is a project that is never, ever truly finished. It's a constant process of writing and arguing and rewriting. This quote from Daniel Fedorian just nails it perfectly. In a democracy, the blueprint isn't supposed to be some ancient text set in stone. It's meant to be a living and adaptable document. Its whole purpose is to change and evolve as the society it governs changes and evolves, to reflect the values of its people. And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question. If a nation's story and its blueprint are constantly being written, if it really is a living document, who holds the pen? Who gets to write the next sentence, the next paragraph, the next chapter of the nation's story? And maybe most importantly, what will it say?